This was a big problem. If the police find out, the deal is dead. And if they don't find out and police riders are dead, Ducati is dead. The Diavel V4. Well, that's a bike that's going to make my credit card live in fear. As someone who's always been indifferent at best about cruisers, I find it ironic recent bikes I find most sexy are cruisers. The Diavels make me think, why live in regret when you can be in debt? The VMAX is a truly timeless work of art. And the Rocket 3 gives me an actual throbbing trouser rocket. Great way to start a video. The new cruiser from Ducati is even more out there compared to the outgoing 1260 Diavel, and yes, it's the Diavel's turn to ditch the trademark V-twin for the V4 configuration that's pretty much on every mainstream Ducati now. But what if I told you this is not the first V4 Ducati cruiser? What if I told you the 2018 Panigale wasn't the first Ducati V4? Neither were the Desmo Sedicis. What if I told you there's a Ducati car with a V4? Nah, it's just a joke. Or is it? 1963 Ducati Apollo V4. This is the first Ducati V4, or simply the first V4 bike, full stop. 1256cc of Italian muscle. It's the Ducati that took on Harley Davidson, and in destroying them, destroyed itself. There's a reason you've never heard of it. 1961, what is that? Well, for starters, my dad is born, and without him, I literally wouldn't be here, so thank you, Dad. It's Barbie finally getting a boyfriend, Ken, setting unrealistic male beauty standards for the next 60 years and sending some very strong my dad's a lawyer vibes. Kawasaki isn't even born yet, and the rest of the Japanese are unknown copycats still trying to learn the ropes. And the peak of luxury and technology is having a speedometer on your bike. Yep, that was an optional extra. Quite the step down from radar cruise control. It's also the year Bellina comes to Ducati with the biggest project it's ever seen. Bellina was the American importer of Ducatis, and since they were buying over 80% of Ducati's production, I think the business term is having them by the balls. The Italian bike market was in the fetal position after the Fiat 500 turned the motorcycle from a utilitarian thing everyone had to buy to get to work into a leisure toy.
Mai valido oggi per la nuova 500.
Bellina was a titan. It was the distributor for Ducati, Zundup, Norton, Metzeler, to the most important market of them all, the United States of the USA. So what's the rub? Bellina was aware of antitrust laws saying the police force have to consider other brands alongside Harley Davidsons for their police bikes. These are contracts worth a fortune. Their angle is they'll have these contracts pay for the exorbitant costs of making the damn thing and then make a civilian version that will be pure profits. So they went to Ducati with an offer they can't refuse. Make us a police spec cruiser bike we can present over here, and we'll pay for all of the development costs. What you need to understand is, at the time, Ducati was state-owned, so all negotiations were excruciatingly slow, and it didn't help the bureaucrats' hearts weren't really in it in the first place. Bellina is footing the initial costs, but everything after that is on them, and these costs were going to be large. VW doesn't make Passats at the same cost of making Bugatti Veyrons. They didn't feel this tiny company deserved that much government money, but Ducati's overlords ultimately relented and said, "Vaffanculo, fine, let's do it." The technical brief lands on the desk of the legendary Taglioni, the star engineer who brought Ducati the Desmo system, the Supersport, Panther, countless wins, and the brief is simple in length. It reads that the police need it to be 1200cc at minimum, ideally more to beat Harleys. The police need it to have 5 and 16-inch tyres. Number 3, the rest is on you. Figure it out, and God help us. Time out. This is 1961 Ducati. There's no 998, there's no 916 of any kind really. There's no Monster, there's no 851, there's no Panther, there's no 750 GT, nothing. Ducati isn't even making V-twins yet, it's best known for singles. Ew. The maximum capacity they make is, get ready for this, 200cc. Ducati wasn't even sure of what kind of brand it wanted to be, as clearly evidenced by the Motofurgoni 200. This was going to be a ride. Taglioni kisses his wife goodbye, downs a Red Bull, and gets to work. He remembers that for his degree in the 40s, he experimented with designing the 250cc V4. Back then, a crazy design. Few bikes had more than 2 cylinders, let alone a 4-cylinder in V-shape on the bike. He gets the papers out and casually proceeds to quintuple the size of everything. The result is the mesmerizing Ducati Apollo V4. Context is always important. So here it is, the Harley-Davidson FL Duo Glide. This is what the police was using. 1215cc V-twin making 55 horsepower and weighing 290 kilos. The Apollo wasn't making 5 more horses to edge them out. Not 10, not even 20. No. Not the Taglioni way. Double. almost double what the best Harley can make at 100 horsepower. How about weigh 20 kilos just to make the police's decision easy? The powerhouse was a futuristic 180-degree V4 design 20 years before Honda's first take and almost 40 before Aprilia's RSV4. It had a 5-speed gearbox versus the Harley's 4-speed, which made the torque monstrous. It was also ridiculously over square, 1.5 bore to stroke, and that's what the Panigale V4 has today. So imagine what it must have been like back then when most designs were square at most. Well, you don't need to imagine as the inevitable happened. The test rider took the prototype out for some high-speed testing on the highway, and the bike shredded the back tire. It would balloon and the tread would shred. It wasn't a fluke, it happened multiple times with multiple riders. The rider said the bike gave, quote, heart-stopping experiences. This is by test rider standards, not our standards of having a tiny wheel slip on a white line, then telling your mates for the next 10 years about that time you almost high-sided if it wasn't for your Rossi reflexes. Yeah, I see you. This was a big problem. If the police find out, the deal is dead. And if they don't find out and police riders are dead, Ducati is dead. They can't change tyres as they were already top of the line for that size and the dimensions are fixed. And they can't make the bike any lighter to help the tyres. So they do the next best thing, detune the engine. They take carbs out, they lower compression, 80 horsepower, still got issues. I mean, you can limit Ron Jeremy to 7 inches, it's still gonna hurt. 70, get in there. They land on 67 horsepower as a safe level, which was awful news. At that level, it's only marginally more powerful than the competition, but vastly more expensive. The Bellinas are red in the face, and back in Rome, the bureaucrats found their excuse to exit, so they just pulled the plug. And the Apollo was suddenly no more. Only 2 prototypes were ever made. One of them simply disappeared. Now we can all joke that it was an ugly, expensive, overweight bike that didn't handle and that these qualities should have made it an American success. But the Apollo, despite being a failure, was a marvel, an exercise in flexing Ducati's engineering muscles. It was Ducati's W16 Veyron moment. No one needs that level of engineering step up. But it was made anyway. It was a bike that was killed by tyre technology lagging what Ducati could make engines punch out. It's very easy to think that tyres have always been as amazing and versatile as they are today, but believe me, that wasn't always the case. Tyres used to be very skinny. A 100 horsepower bike today like the MT-09 needs a 180 section tyre, about 50% bigger what the Apollo had. And it had bi-ply tyres, of course, which overheat far too quick. Remember, radials didn't come on bikes till the 80s and made mainstream in the 90s. The Apollo simply had no chance to put its full power down short of converting it into a hover bike. The Apollo's engine was truly a masterpiece, especially when you consider the time it was built in. There's a reason Taglioni had one in his office for 20 years as a showpiece. Its legacy now finally lives on in the latest Diavel V4. As for the Apollo, it was a classic example of simply being too ahead of your time. Thank you for supporting this channel.